Hey, good morning, everybody. Today, we're going to go over the application releases for November. So let's start on the wiki page under meetings and trainings. At the bottom, calendar year 2024, and we're going to go over November. So USAS had two hot fixes in the month of November and two regular releases. One of the bug fixes that we corrected was an error that was thrown sometimes when processing billing payments in the accounts receivable module. So that has been corrected, hopefully. And then a caching problem was also introduced, and that was related to one of the improvements that we're going to talk about in a moment. But it was related to reconciling and unreconciling disbursements. So the bug was introduced with the 2022 or 2024.22 release, but was hot fixed on 22.1. And the hot fix then properly set the status on the disbursement when it was reconciled or unreconciled. The hot fix also included a patch to ensure that the disbursement status was correct for any disbursements that was reconciled or unreconciled since the bug was introduced in the 2024.22 release. So any questions on that, just let me know. But that has been fixed. Improvements in the month of November. The developers made it so that USAS will automatically rerun interrupted account change jobs. Therefore, if an account change job is running and the application is restarted, for instance, upon restart, then the progress or the account change job will then resume. It won't like stop. It'll resume. So that's a big improvement. And then this disbursement performance improvements, this is what introduced that bug with the caching up here. But the average percent of improvement for posting payables was 58%. The average improvement for voiding disbursements was 66. Those with associated invoices was 48%. The unvoid process was 47%, and then the reconciling, you can see it was 99%. And then resequencing was 38%. And as always, we're always going to try to update and improve, which has also been planned. So another improvement was made with the AR payments, and let me log in and show you. This improvement made the flow of mass processing AR payments easier, allowing the user to remain on the billing grid. So the new thing in this release is this where you could check mark this or not, but I'll show you the difference. So it's going to default to my user preference, which is unchecked. And if I post a payment to one of my outstanding billings, and notice I'm on the billing grid, I could have check marked it and then here, check mark it here and apply payment. Think, oh, okay, I'm in December. When I save this, now remember I was on the billing grid, but as I'm applying payments upon save, upon save, I am automatically navigated to the payment screen. So when you're mass posting payments, it's nice to be on the billing grid and just select and keep on going. So remain on the grid. We're going to stay on the billing grid and we'll apply this payment. Upon save, before it went to the payment grid, oh, start, I keep forgetting. But we remain on the billing grid and this remains checked so you know where you were. So then you just go to the next one and apply payment and continue. So that was a nice improvement in my mind. Hopefully that's wonderful for your users. Any questions on that? Um, we also only had two patches, but these were like to specific districts. There was a PO data patch to correct a PO status and a patch to remove account change jobs that were stuck. And then the patch updated that account job status that was stuck to a failed status so that the district could go ahead and process it again. Any questions on USAS? Okay, so I'm gonna jump to inventory. And instead of scrolling, I just have it up because it's under actually on this page under USPS, but since I'm doing both, I'll just stay in line. So inventory in the month of November, we had some bug fixes. One of the bugs was when users created acquisitions prior to the item's acquisition date. This was resulting in the detail and the summary schedule of change reports, the schedule of change of fixed asset reports, not to match when the acquisition was in a prior fiscal year. So this was, this bug was corrected. And now the acquisition mounts on the gap reports where the item's acquisition is, the bug that was related to the item's acquisition date before the acquisition, item date has been corrected. And then an error that was thrown, let me log into inventory. Another bug that was corrected was an error was thrown when you were on the item screen and you were creating an item and you were using this drop down. So that error has been fixed. I guess that was introduced by the next improvement I was going to talk about. So when they made this improvement, that drop down had a glitch. So although that's been fixed, the recent improvement included on the pending items grid, you can now use the More button over here and select PO date, invoice date, and receive date if you choose to be included on your grid. They are filterable. So that's a nice improvement. And then another inventory improvement was, and I personally like this one too. Let me go back to the recap page. Is on any reports. Do I have that on there? Oh yeah, right here. Any and all reports generated in the fiscal year end bundle will now include that reports option page. I like that because it shows you how the user chose or what the user chose when they ran those reports. So that was a big improvement in my opinion. And then the fiscal year end balance report has also been improved to sort the fund, function, and asset class values in sequential order. And then they changed the name of the closing balance report to fiscal year end balances report. It's the same report, but it just has a new name and probably a new location under here because of the alphabetical sort. So, any questions on any of that before I turn it over to Lori for USPS? Okay, you guys have a good weekend.
Okay, thank you, Pat. I will go ahead and share my screen here. All right. We'll move on to the payroll portion, the releases that happen in the month of November, getting ahead of myself. For payroll, we had two. With that, we had a couple bug fixes and some improvements, so we'll go over those. The bug fixes, we corrected an issue with the mass change program when it relates to mass changing payroll item maximums. There were certain situations that if employees didn't have an existing value in those max fields, it was throwing an error and the mass change option wasn't working. So that has been corrected. So there shouldn't be any issues with those employees that don't currently have a value in those max fields when using mass change. We also corrected an issue with the pay slip service, and this deals with that connection to ESS and how those pay slips are getting pulled. Now the system will actually retrieve the pay slips from the file archive if they existed before the new PDF option in USPS exists. And then if for those classic pay slips, basically it's going to pull from the file archive, and then from those pay slips after districts migrated to the redesign, those are going to pull from the history and use the form that's defined on the USPS side of things. So just you should see a difference in the way that those looked prior, in classic versus, how they look now. So that's gonna directly correlate to the ESS side of things and, look accordingly. Improvements, we have a whole list of, my goodness, I didn't even go through and count them, but maybe 20-ish if I had to guess, of those improved styling features that you've seen in the past on other reports. So we're continuing to enhance and make these reports that are listed look different, along with holding that font size so that you shouldn't see if a user ran the report yesterday versus today, or even in some cases they would run the report multiple times in a day and they would be questioning why it looked different. That's all being fixed, and that's what all of these reports, the improvement to all these reports relates to. So I actually generated one of them that was that's listed is the benefit accrual report. So hopefully, you guys are all aware of what changes and the new look of the report. I think it's so much easier to read. It's, we have the highlighted lines here. We have the highlighted, header column. So the shading and stuff looks, it's such a great improvement and it's so much easier on the eyes to read. So again, we'll continue to make these changes to, the additional, the reports that are left that haven't had the change made to them, but all of these were improved and have that new look. We touched upon this, at calendar year end time, but we did add a report under the W2 SS. That happened several releases ago. That just allows districts to create that SSN verification submission file, and in the proper format. And that file then can be uploaded to the Social Security Administration's business services online. What happens then is, they're going to match the name and the SSN with what they have on file, as compared to what's in the file that's extracted from state software. If there are issues, the differences, then that gets sent back in a results report. So there's an option then in this W2 SSN verification that then to import that results repeat print. Well, name.
Hey, Lori.
So on the
Lori,
employee record, hopefully all of you are aware if in that field, yeah, yes,
you're like cutting in and out
yes.
a little bit.
Hello?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out a little bit. Oh, you might be frozen now.
Okay. Can you hear me okay now or no?
Now, Lori, it sounds, I don't know if it looks in your kind of froze on the screen
All
there.
right,
So,
not.
oh, okay. Well, keep going. We can hear you, but we can't see
Can you
you.
hear
So
me
just
okay now or is it still
we
frozen?
can. Yep, we can hear you better.
Okay. Okay. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure what's happening. Where should I start? I'm sorry. I was talking about the W2 SSN verification update. Did you guys hear any of that or not?
I would start from there.
Can you not hear me again? Okay, all right, I'm sorry. Okay, so the several releases ago, we released an option under reports called W2 SSN verification. So hopefully you're all aware of these, options, the create submission file option and then the results report option. So, again, this allows you to create an extract file that can be uploaded to the Social Security Administration's business services online. We're going to clear the name and the SSN that are in the file with what they have back in a report. So you can use the results report option to import that results, that A report, and see the results. So, once that gets imported, if there's anything contained in that report, then users will want to make that change so that the two systems, the two sides match. What we failed to do was to use the legal name field. So as I'm sure you're all aware, if a user enters something on the employee record in the legal name field, so whether it be the last name, the first name, the middle name, or the suffix, this is what gets recorded for two purposes. So, whoops, and I think I was up a line, I'm sorry, under the legal name field. So last name, first name, middle name, suffix. So we failed to, when we released the W-2 SSN verification, it was brought to our attention that it was not using these legal name fields if they applied. So we made an enhancement to the program so that that will now, use those fields as it should. There was an assignment area that the Ohio Department of, ODEW removed. So we made that change on our end as well. So if you go to an employee's position record, 972 to a position record.
Hey Lori, we can hear you now. Like
Yes.
everything you went through were good. It's happening a little bit again. I wonder if maybe you tried turning off your camera, then the audio won't have problems. Sorry.
Okay. No, I am so sorry.
No, that's okay. Hey, internet happens sometimes, so I'm thinking
Yeah,
maybe that I just want to make sure we can hear everything you're saying.
of course it picks the worst time for this stuff to happen, right? All right, I'm gonna try to turn, I can't even find my screen now.
I think the internet's ready for the weekend too.
Yeah, I think maybe it's as cold as what, the temperature is outside. It's running slow. Let's see here. Oh, I can't even find one of those days.
Of course, and now that I've chimed in again, you've been fine since we've been talking, so
All right. Well, we'll give it another go here. Again, I apologize. I am not sure what's happening. All right, so on the position record, if you go under the funding source, which is here, the assignment area, you'll see that 999,275 is no longer listed because it's no longer a valid option. So that's been excluded from the dropdown so that it doesn't mistakenly get reported and cause an error. We made some updates to the leave option. The first was actually to remove the option that was listed on the menu called Leaves New. That was added, several months ago. We actually removed that and just made the changes to the original leaves option that was listed under core. So you can to core, you will no longer see that leaves new option listed. Then within that leaves menu option, we made changes and most of this is related to the ESS side of things. So each employee now will have the same grid basically. So they're going to have a sick leave, vacation, and personal leave displayed on their grid, whether they're eligible or not. So if I go to that leaves option, you'll now see that we have a record listed for personal leave, sick leave, and vacation for every single employee, whether they're eligible for this, type of leave or not. So if those check boxes aren't marked or they are marked on those position records, it's still going to list them on the leaves grid. Okay. Along with that, we do require now a leave unit. So A leave unit is required for each of these types. So if there's not a leave unit entered for all three types, then there's an error that's produced. And we've listed the error here, as a screenshot so you can actually see what that looks like. So kind of piggybacking on that, all of the leave units must, if they're not, then again, an error will occur. So here's then, I'm not sure if you can see that very well, make it a little bigger here. You can see then that the error occurs, if those aren't set. They all have to be set the same so that, again, you're going to get an error if that situation doesn't happen or those requirements aren't met. And then under the more option, we actually added the unapplied usage, the unreported accumulation, and the unreported usage to the grid. So you can see that I can now, if I go and click under more, I have the ability to add those three columns to my grid. Okay, they're not filterable or sortable. It would require too much behind the scenes happening. So they're actually, not filterable or sortable, so it doesn't cause performance issues. But you can use the report option and then generate a report of all the information and then filter it out that way. Okay. So that will be helpful if you do need to filter those or sort those and look at those records a certain way. We made an enhancement to the W-2 report and submission. The report and forms option. So if you go to W-2 reports, W-2 report and submission, the enhancement I'm going to mention is down here, the select by city tax entity code. So prior to this update, you actually had to enter the code or, know or look those up. We've now included them in the drop down. So, you no longer have to remember those or look those up. They're included here and users can simply go down the list and look for the proper tax entity code and select the appropriate code that way and then generate the report or the file instead of, going back and forth and looking those up or remembering them, having them on a list somewhere. So super helpful. We also added another update to the reports, the forms, the submission, and the XML options of W-2 report and submission. So we had this reported for several years now that users were having issues with reporting information to cities or OSDI when the records contained maybe a total or an applicable gross without an amount held or vice versa. And usually this situation happens when the record, the payroll item wasn't stopped properly. So a lot of times what users were doing were instead of truly stopping the record, they would just remove the percentage on, the rate in that rate field. So that's not going to withhold anything from the employee, but it's not going to stop those total and applicable gross amounts from continuing to accrue. So then when you go to, report W-2 information, there would be, information listed that wasn't accurate. So then you try to, use adjustments to zero that information out. And that was all fine and good, but it still printed the city or, the OSDI code. So that was confusing, and I know some reporting entities didn't like that so much. So we've now added some, checks in the system so that those situations, won't happen. They can be corrected and then correctly reported on the employee's W-2 and all the XML files, the submission files, and so forth. So we've, listed a screenshot here of, the two errors that could you could encounter. And then we've also included in the W-2 report and submission, in the errors, we actually had, and I thought I had this pulled up. And I'm wondering if I am freezing again because my screen just froze. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear
I
you,
hope
Lori,
so.
and we can see your screen. And the documentation is
Okay,
on
the
here.
errors. All right. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay. So the errors that we added, okay. So the errors that we added, I'm sorry, I thought I had these all ready to go. Sorry for all the scrolling here. We included, here we go. So this, explains, nope, that's the annuity one. Here we go. So the tax withheld is 0 and the total gross is greater than 0. And then the tax withheld is 0, the taxable gross is greater than 0. And then lastly, the taxable gross is 0 and the total gross is greater than 0. So these are the 3 errors that we added. And then we've also added a means then under each of these, a way to correct those. So we have, pre to core adjustment under each of these, and it explains the adjustment that will need to happen to make sure that that's, basically cleared off of the employee's W-2 and it's reported correctly. Okay, so those are the 3 errors that we added when it comes to W-2 report and submission. All right, so that is all we have when it comes to the updates on the payroll side of things. I did want to address a couple other items that have been, we've been working on lately or have been brought to our attention. And one is the reporting reimbursable expenses. We have a document and it's currently it's linked under our calendar year end supporting documents. So if you scroll down, there's a link that says reimbursable employee expense situations. And if you click that, it should take you then to all of those special situations. So adoption assistance, life insurance. And then when it comes up, you'll see that the last one is reporting employees reimbursable situations. So we've kind of put a lot of time and effort into this document and explained. There have been so many questions over the last couple of years about, cash taxable benefit and the difference between those two. So what we've done is, and It's still spinning. It should update to our new version. And it doesn't look like it's okay. Let me check something. That is not our new one. Huh. All right, so let me look into that. Link does not appear to be the new link, and I will get that taken care of. I wonder if I'll be honest, we've been working on this a lot, so maybe something didn't get updated link wise. But if we go to the SSDT wiki, which I'll go here, there should be under the appendix, there is maybe. We sing like a Christmas carol or something while it's waiting. Oh my goodness.
Lori, do you want me to share my screen and show? Maybe it's just if you're having some internet issues, maybe
That
it's
would be
that.
great, Michelle.
I can do that.
Yeah, let me, okay.
And you
Let
can tell me where I need to
me
go
stop
here.
sharing and thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Can everyone see my screen
Okay, so if we
okay?
go to,
Yes, we can.
Okay.
yeah, so if you go down to the, yep, documentation, and then let's go down to the appendix. We'll start there.
Okay. Under checklist
All
then?
right, and so if we go to, let's try useful procedures. And then we have a bullet called reporting special situations on the employee's W-2. So if there's a link or something that's not quite right, I'll get that updated here after our meeting. But what you should see then are, as I mentioned, the adoption assistance checklist, the life insurance checklist, the non-cash taxable benefits checklist, third party, and then reporting reimbursable employee expenses. So if we click on that, we've actually outlined, again, because we had so many questions on when do I use the fringe benefit option? When do I use the non-cash taxable benefit option? So we've kind of outlined the first part of the document is going to outline then basically, if you're needing to, yeah, let's scroll just, yep, right there is good. So there's two options, right? You can create a pay type or you can use an adjustment. And the adjustment then is going to be either a taxable benefit or a fringe benefit. So based on, those are the user's options. So how do I know which to choose? So basically there's two things that they need to consider. How do they want the payment to look on the employee's W-2 and where they're at in calendar year and processing? Okay, so, if they have questions on how that needs to look on their W-2, as I'm sure you're all aware, reach out to their legal advisor and point them in that direction. Down below then in the general information, we've outlined what is going to be affected if they use the non-cash taxable benefit pay type. So they're processing this right along with the payroll. It's going to update all of those options that we've, all of those bullets below. So if they want their federal tax, their year-to-date gross, their applicable gross, their amount withheld, their state total gross, applicable gross, amount withheld, city if it applies, Medicare total applicable amount withheld, and OSDI total applicable and amount withheld to be affected, then they would want to use the non-cash taxable benefits pay type. So that's, they have remaining pays left. They can process that as that, pay type right along with the employee's check. The system is going to do all the work for them. If there are no remaining pays in the calendar year, and they want, again, all of those items that we just mentioned to be affected, then they're going to use the core adjustment type of taxable benefits. Okay? So that, again, is going to basically do all the work for them outside of withholding the taxes. So those, two are going to be used if you want federal, state, city, Medicare, and OSDI withheld and affected. If they only want federal and state to be affected, then they're going to use the adjustment type of fringe benefit. And we've outlined that and what will be affected when they use, that specific type of adjustment. Then along with that, if they want the fringe benefit included on the employee's W-2 in box 14, when they run their W-2 processing, they're going to check that box that says include fringe benefits. And that will place the amount then in box 14 as a fringe benefit. Okay. So basically those are the two differences. Now we've been asked, what are some examples? And obviously along the lines, there was, a need for a fringe benefit and only withholding, federal and state. But as far as, solid examples, again, we just, have them reach out to their tax advisor to look on the employee's W-2 and what taxes need to be affected. So after that general section, we have specific scenarios. So if they paid this through a disbursement and now they want it to appear, as such on the employee's W-2, and they have remaining pays left, this is how they need to handle, making that, I think, maybe 8 or 9 different scenarios. So, you can go, the users can go through, determine which scenario fits the situation that they need, how they need it to look on the employee's W-2, and follow those directions. I did want to point out, I know that we've had this question in the past. So what if I do want a federal, state, city if it applies, OSDI if it applies, and Medicare to be affected, but I also need that reported as a fringe benefit in box 14. So if we scroll all the way down towards the bottom, we've included that in a scenario as well. So basically, as we mentioned when we started talking about all of this, if you use just the fringe benefit adjustment type, all that's doing is updating the federal and the state. Okay, so if they truly want that non-cash taxable benefit to also be reported as a fringe benefit in that box 14, because of, using that non-cash benefit type, but then also adding a fringe benefit adjustment and then backing out those amounts that are, on the federal record and the state record that would be automatically updated by using the fringe benefit adjustment. And then as long as you check the box when W-2 processing happens to include fringe benefits, it will include that amount in box 14. But then, because we've backed out the federal and the state amounts, it's not touching those two figures again. Okay, I know we've had that question before, and we've kind of, said, oh, I don't know that there's really a way to do that. This is a way to sort of trick the system. I don't know how often that situation occurs, but we can, there are steps now available for users to make that happen. All right, I will make sure that all the links and stuff are coordinated, make sure that we have everything updated, the right link on the calendar you're in.
Sorry, you're
Wiki page,
cutting out.
again, we've tried to go through. Was there a
Sorry, you're-
question or
Yeah.
is it me
Sorry, you're cutting in and out again. So does anyone have any questions regarding this? Okay,
Okay, can you hear me okay now or not?
it comes and goes, but right now we can.
Okay, I'm gonna make it really quick. So hopefully, the last thing I want to touch upon is STRS. So we had several reports of, hey, my STRS file isn't getting to STRS. Hey, I have a missing employee on my STRS per pay file. So we actually had worked with STRS directly to try to kind of isolate what's going on and figure out where the problem is. And it all boils down a couple weeks ago. It actually, was something that STRS changed for security purposes on their end. So it had to do with, that connection that is happening between state software and STRS. But they made that fix on their end, and then the files were, going through as they should. So if we don't make any changes on our end, chances are that that's probably something that's, an issue on STRS's side. Again, we'll work, as a team to try to get it resolved. But while we were having that conversation, there was a situation that came in where an employee just magically, fell off of the file. So when we were talking to STRS about, the STRS per pay is not getting to them, we also talked about this situation, and it really came down to, in this case, again, if the employee is in the submission file that's coming from state software, then it's something on STRS's side. And that's truly what it ended up being. There was some kind of manual change that they updated the file on their end. And that's what the issue ended up being. But in having that conversation, STRS mentioned that they were having reports of employees, other instances where employees were falling off of the report. So I'm like, well, that's kind of alarming. If they're included in the file, they should be falling off of the report. And what we determined was it's really reported and included in the STRS per pay file that's coming from state software, not having all of the parts, basically. So When it gets to the STRS's side, if they don't have all of the information that they need, it's quote falling off of the report or causing an error. And that's what they're meaning when, employees are falling off of the report. So we kind of talked through some situations, and I really truly believe what's happening is districts are still using assigning payroll items to position at the position level. And so if they don't have all of the necessary retirement payroll items assigned at the position level, and then have another set of records either assigned to another set of position records, or they don't have that other set of payroll items not assigned to any position, then that causes issues. And I know we've all been there. You guys have, asked for assistance in getting that reported. But I think we, if we can all kind of get the message out together that if there's not a need to assign those retirement records at the position level, then, we shouldn't be doing that. It's an option, an optional option that we even have, if it's not required, then leave it blank right when they create the record. So if you have districts that have situations like that, or their retirement records are set up like that, and there's really not a need, then, maybe suggest we archive those, and then create new retirement payroll items, not assigning those at the position level so that nothing gets missed or not withheld or, withheld incorrectly and so forth. And then, in turn gets reported to STRS incorrectly and causes those, missing records, so to speak. But yeah, we talked to STRS and talked through all of this, and they kind of understand state software now. And, we mentioned that we would do anything that we can to try to get the message out, get the word out. We're going to put a little blurb in the newsletter to try to, help users understand that that's not necessary. And, sort of get away from setting up those records that way. All right. Any questions? And I truly apologize for all of the internet issues and so forth. So archiving STRS and STRS payroll with, so no, if you archive those and you create the users create new payroll items and they're not assigned to positions, it will not cause issues. We have checks in place that it's actually looking at those archived records, and it should not cause any problems. So they should be fine. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Sorry again for the internet issues. I'm gonna stop talking and I'll let Michelle take over here. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Lori,
Yes, they can. If they can archive them if there was money already withheld on those. That's okay. Again, they're going to our system, everything that uses those retirement records also looks at archived records, so they're good. Yes.
I think that was yes too. It will still show in the STRS advance. So.
Sorry. Yeah. You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right. We'll move on to employee self-service. And with employee self-service, we had 2 regular fixes and 3 hot fixes. We have quite a few JIRA issues on each of those regular. And so let's just kind of get through these. I won't be covering all the different bug fixes. And what I've done again is categorize these because there are so many. And categorize these by the related, whether it's leave related, timesheet, miscellaneous. And so they're all documented here. I have included the JIRA issue number and also the release that it was on. Kind of helped me just to keep straight as to what all happened. Okay, so going in through the bug fixes here, and I'm just going to go, like I said, through a couple of these. We did have an issue with the leave request about handling the supervisor information correctly. What was happening is if a supervisor was changed on the, for that employee, the employee's leave request form was not reflecting the current supervisor. The grid was reflecting it correctly, but the form wasn't. So we fixed that. Another thing, I'm just going to skip through some of these here. I am going to talk about leave calendars here and some of the improvements that we've made regarding the calendars here when we get down to the new features. Under leave requests, we did remove the archived positions. So when a user was creating a leave request, and let's say they had multiple positions to select from, it was including those archived ones. So we fixed that so the archive no longer appear when they're selecting a position on their leave request. Under leave management, there was a sort issue underneath the export leave history. I went into that grid and I clicked on, one of those exports that were done, and I wanted to try to sort by category. It wasn't sorting correctly, so that was fixed. And we also did a fix on the calculations on the absence thresholds, and that's under the leave management menu. So those were leave-related bugs. Timesheets, I'm just going to skip through these internal ones here. One of them that we did do, and well, all 3 of them are really internal, but this last one here, when the leave request information items were getting pulled into the timesheet, it wasn't pulling them in correctly. So we fixed that. So it's correctly pulling them in based on the period start and stop date. So it may have been one missing and we weren't sure why. We fixed that now. So it coincides with the period. It's going to pull those leave requests within that same period. Absence management related here. Let me scroll down here. Checking for missing absence reason ID. This is another thing when things were getting pulled into the data view grid underneath the absence management menu option. There were some that were showing the leave requests were coming in, but we weren't sure what the error was. And so we fixed that, and it's a process message. I'm going to show you where that's at. So if I'm underneath the absence management and I'm underneath the data import views, and in this grid here, when I look at one of these absences that gets pulled over, one thing that we've improved is this process message, and we made sure this is a different error message that I'm showing you, but we made sure that information is correctly getting added as to why there was an error, and so it's going to reflect it in here correctly. And other miscellaneous options here that are bugs that were fixed. An email service update was done to fix those where the user who didn't have an employee ID assigned, when they were canceling a leave request, it wasn't showing the detail on that. So what happens is with that one, instead, when that user receives the email, it's going to detail that the leave was canceled by that person's username or first name and last name. Also, internal options here, we found, this is just stuff that we found, that sessions where being logged in longer than what they should. They didn't get logged out automatically, so we fixed that. And also underneath here, allow admin and external users to be selected in the grid for locked and unlocked positions. So in the user grid, what was happening is it was adding those and including those people in there. So we made sure that it automatically excludes them. And this is when they're using the bulk password operation. So we don't, if the district's going in and doing a bulk password reset, we want to make sure that those that are the admin actual user, and that those with the external user configured, that those don't get included in the reset. So those are just some of the minor bugs. I really want to dig into the improvements that have been made. And again, I subcategorized these. So with the leave requests, we handled missing email addresses when canceling a leave request. So this one was kind of tied to a unique situation where the admin account that didn't have an email address was assigned to a group. And when the originator canceled the leave request, they received an error instead of, what actually happened. So we improved that so that it no longer generates an error, and instead it will create more detailed information in the app log indicating that the user didn't have an email address. So that's something that, is out there in the app log then that, you can determine why that didn't work. The leave calendar PDF reports here. And like I said, once we get into the new features, I want to go into those, but we made some improvements along with that. So we did have an issue where that memory leak bug that I was talking about earlier was causing an issue, and we fixed that on version 16 here. And then we also improved the printer-friendly options when you're exporting the leave calendar PDF. So like I said, once we get into calendars and the new features, I'll show those to you so you can see the different options that are available. It's pretty nice. We added an option to the leave management, the export leave requests, to include and exclude items to be extracted. So I'm going to show you this one as well. This one's a pretty neat one. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to go into the leave management. And I'm going to go into the export leave requests. And so what we've done before, when you filtered on here, so let's say I filter, let's see, by 12/1 to 12/15. I'll just pick on current pay period quote. And when you're, up here are your filter options. So when you're filtering up here, it's displaying down here in the grid, the filtered data, but you can't export these right away. Before it would just show them and the export leave request option would be active and you go ahead and export those all. But we had several people asking, can we just be able to select who we want to export? The grid is showing us who can be exported, but there may be a situation where we don't want to export one of these. Maybe, we want to go back in and cancel that leave request. And so what we did is we provided this ability now where you could go in and if they all need to be exported, you can click the top box, or you can just select the ones that you do. And you notice when I do that, the export leave request option is enabled. Also, we have a print pre-export report. This is something very new that I don't believe is out there for you guys to see yet. I think this is something that's going to be on the next release, or maybe the release that just went out today. I can't keep them all straight, but we do have a pre-export report now too that allow you to view the information before you export it. So that's a pretty cool feature too. And we'll probably be showing that on next month's recap. Yes, but this will allow you then to select what you want and then export. And then again, if there are some where you intentionally skipped over, those can be canceled if need be. Yes, I agree, Valley. The districts will love this. They've been asking for this. Okay, go back. And under the user-related improvements, Under the group chain, we added just additional options to the more button. I know we had a lot of people go to users and group chains asking about, hey, I want to be able to add in more columns here. I want to be able to see pay groups. I want to be able to see department and building codes. So they can add those and those will show up on the grid. General user view enhancements. We've improved the user view a little bit. So I want to take you in there. And I'm going to go to the user grid. And one thing that we did is we moved the lock and unlock options up at the top. So you'll see them, they're no longer in here as small icons on each row. We have them up at the top. And then what we've also added there is the ability to mass lock or unlock. So, if there are certain people that their account's locked, you need to unlock them, you can select those and click the unlock users and it will unlock them. One thing though with this that we did change is that the lock and unlock, whether you do it manually or you do a mass, you're only going to be able to do it from the grid. If I go in and let's say just look at one of these, the lock option isn't available on the actual form anymore. Let's see. Go back. So that's these two options here. That's what that's talking about. Underneath the timesheet related, we are making a lot of updates in timesheets. And I have to be honest with you, the documentation is not up to par with all that hasn't been caught up yet with all the different options that are available in timesheet, but that is a priority and we're going to get that documentation done as soon as possible. But the related enhancements that have been made for timesheets, we did add mass approval rejection for timesheets on the home screen. So similar to what we have with the mass approval of leave requests, I don't believe I've got any here, and I know I'm in the admin account right now, but you'll notice like on leave approval, if I had a bunch listed here, I could mass approve them by checking them and clicking mass approve. We have the same options now in timesheet. So I just clicked on the timesheet approval area. And again, if I had a bunch of timesheets and I was an approver, I could go in and select all or just select the ones that I want to and click approve and it will mass approve those timesheets. The timesheet close period, we added a new confirmation dialog in there. So when closing a timesheet period, a nice little pop-up will come up and it will show you the count of the timesheets and their various approval statuses. I think I have an example of that here. I'm going to go down to timesheets and I'm going to go into the timesheet. All right. Oh, yes, I need to go into the period, sorry. And I'm just going to go ahead and close this 11/16 period. It's currently open. So if I need to close it, what I'm going to see then is this confirmation box basically. And it's just saying, are you sure I'm going to close this period because you have 2 approved timesheets in here. And so it just basically will allow you to say, yep, I want to go ahead and close these, or you can cancel out of it and say no. So it's just a little warning to let you know what's going on. Also, going back, adding employee name to the label underneath. Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. I'm skipping over here. Sorry. Deleting automatic period generator. So what this means is if you go into the automatic period generator into the actual automatic period grid, and you delete an automatic period 2, you will also get a message letting you know how many positions were in that period. So again, it's just a notification You may continue deleting that automated period, and that's okay. All those related periods and timesheets with it remain intact, but it's just another warning box similar to the timesheet period close one. The timesheet period grid, this was improved so that if you automatically close, period confirmation is enabled, and that is set up underneath the configuration, underneath the system menu. There's a timesheet period close. If that automatically closed period is checked, the period grid should display the close date and time for those automatically closed periods. So again, I'm in period right here. These are the actual closed period date and times here. So that's what that's. Oh, yes, underneath the period. Yes, sorry. So the close date is showing and displayed here. Also, the position selection component, with that one, we've added the employee name to the label. So that's just more of a, because of the position, you're not quite sure the actual employee tied to that in that area. So what we did is we went in and made those updates. So I'm going to show you where that's at. So if I go underneath the shift and I pick on the custodian shift here, and I just go down to if I have any position selected. Before it was just the employee ID number and the position number, and the description. Now it's going to show the actual username that's associated with that position. So that's helpful. And the last one here, an enhancement in timesheets, adding the position column to the district timesheet grid. So yeah, this is one that was a pretty good improvement here. It improved it so that when you're looking at the district timesheet view, and since I'm in the admin, I should be able to see that. So in here, the position now is listed in here. And obviously, they can add and remove anything else that they want, but by default, that's included in the grid. So those were the timesheet improvements that we made. And like I said, they're all labeled here with the JIRA issues in case you want more information. And I just added little extra blurbs here to describe one of these. Also underneath improvements, there were some absence management related ones. And I'm just going to talk about these. I'm not going to go in and show any information on these, but I know that, the way that it selects the position, when it pulls that absence in, I know we had reports that the wrong position was being selected when the absence pulled in through, from ASOP. And so we made some improvements on that. And we do have a troubleshooting document, and we also have information, a chapter underneath on the documentation for the frontline absence management. And so we will update this to report these updates that were made and how the position is being selected. So that will be updated in here. And like I said, underneath our appendix, we have an ASOP troubleshooting integration. And this one right here is going to be updated with how that works. But essentially what happens is when it determines which position to select, what we did is we added a few more checks. If the leave request is a sick, vacation, or personal leave, and the position is not eligible for that type of leave, it's going to be removed from consideration. It wasn't before. So we fixed that on this issue. Also, it was including archived positions as possible selections, and so we removed those as well. So archived positions will not be considered, and that the positions are now sorting by job status and position number. So active positions will be checked before inactive. We weren't doing that before, and positions with lower numbers will be checked first. So again, we are going to update the documentation here to explain those better. But it has fixed that. I know a lot of people have just gone into ASAP and entered the position number in the employee external ID 1 field of their employee record. And that is basically the way to fix that. But you know, all of these other checks that we had just needed to be improved in case that wasn't in there. And so we made all those updates on that 995 issue. This one right here. Also, updating how absences are stored from absence management. So that's this one right here. So we've updated it. What was happening is that there were a bunch of duplicates that were appearing in that absence data grid. Let me go where that's at here. So again, there were a lot of, you know, duplicates in these grids. So what we've done is we've made sure that we've updated it so the duplicates are no longer appearing. So if they're, you know, when the log files are getting pulled in, whether they're creating the absence, which those will show underneath absence create, whether they're updating an existing absence or whether they're canceling it, it should only have one log file. This is kind of what we call a log file here. It should only have one log file per ASAP configuration number. This is the ASAP configuration number. And it should update that accordingly. So that way then you don't see a bunch of duplicate old updates for the same confirmation number. We've improved that so this grid looks better. And the last thing that we did with the absence management is we added an improvement on the split from. So if I go in and just look at an ASAP employee's leave request, show you where that's at. I'm just going to go to district leave here. And I'm going to pick on somebody that's running through ASAP in my test files. And I'm just going to pick on Brent here. What we did is we added this ASAP split from number. And, you know, and this is in relation to all the other existing ASAP fields that we have in here to indicate that this leave request came from ASAP. And so, you know, when you're just originally, you know, creating a leave in ASAP, it pulls over, you view it in here, you're going to see the ASAP origin, the confirmation number, and the absence instance ID number. You're not going to see anything in this split from number yet. But let's say they go back into ASAP and they split it off and edit that absence into multiple days. And so what happens then in ESS after the sync job runs again, the leave request that was split off from Frontline should have a new confirmation number, and the split from field here should contain the previous confirmation number that leave was associated. So that's all that's doing is it's, you know, updating that field so that you can see, oh, okay, this is the split number from ASAP. It's just recording that. Other miscellaneous updates that took place in November, we did add a new button to the app log. Oh, I like this so much. In order to extract any error messages. So instead of doing a bunch of copy pasting, I'll go down to the app log here, go down to system, go to the app log, and I'm just going to filter on the errors. Those are the ones that we want to see. And then when you view it here, there's the ability now to download the error message. So, and it will download it into, I think, a text file. And that way, you know, if you do have some crazy error where, you know, you do need to send that to us, this would be a perfect option. Let's go ahead and download this and attach it to your ticket, and we can take a look at it. So we just made that enhancement of being able to download it instead of copy pasting this entire message. Makes it easier on both of us. And then we had just some internal updates that we made, health check when syncing data, an internal one about updating the timesheet and leave request workflows. to include the user's UUID instead of the user name. If they're, maybe the user's going to, changes their username. We want to base it off of the UUID, not their username anymore. So these were just kind of internal things that we recognized needed to be done. So those were fixed. So that's all of the improvements in a nutshell that happened in November. And so what I'm going to do is move on to our new features. And the first thing I want to talk about are all of these calendar updates that we made. So I'm going to log in as an actual user here. I can pick on Brenda. All right. And so I'm just going to go down to the leave calendars. And I'm going to look at the supervisor leave calendar. She is an approver. And so she's going to go in and view the leave calendars for her staff. Some updates that we made in here is with the calendars, we're going to go through the print. And so if I go and right now I'm in the monthly calendar view, and with this view, which is the default view, when I go to print calendar, I have these two options, either CSV, and it will take the details of the calendar that's displaying and pulls that information into a spreadsheet, or I can do the print monthly calendar to PDF. And then how do I want this to be? Black and white? And if not, then it will be a colored calendar. All of this information, it has been documented. And so I want to kind of take you to where that's at. Let me go into our leave calendars. And what we did is we added the calendar view print options underneath the more information because there was so much to show you guys on that. And I believe that these need to be tweaked a little bit based on these slight changes that we've made this last release. But it shows you what happens, based on the view that you use, what options you have available. So and I think some of these, like I said, need to be tweaked. But it will go in and show you and just kind of describes what you're going to see and then what those options that you select will do. So this is all documented in here for you guys to, refer to your districts on how these calendars are working. Just going back here. So yeah, I can go in because I have view monthly. I've got these options that allow me to generate that and basically create a PDF file of that. And saving it is December 2024. I go and look at that PDF file, and I'll notice too that I've got the different colors in here. So it just kind of gives them an option to view, print the calendar if they need to. So I know we had a lot of requests about being able to generate and print calendars. Also, if I change the view, and let's say I have a weekly calendar here, and my print calendar options are going to be a little bit different based on that. So right now I just only have the CSV option. If I go in and change it to a monthly list, that's probably not going to look very pretty on a PDF. So the only option available there is just the CSV option. So again, it's based on, the actual view that they're seeing. And like I said, by default, when they log in, it's going to be the monthly calendar. And some of these other options in here, we also added a custom start and stop. And I believe this is for, I don't know if the My Leave calendar has that. No, it doesn't. So this is for supervisor, probably more elevated users and their calendar access. I believe the district calendar view has these options as well. And so it makes sense, right? These supervisor, the district people are going to see a lot more leave requests on their calendars than just you looking at your own underneath the My Leave calendar. And so if they do want to filter this, they can click on here and select a start and a stop date. I'm just going to pick on this first week of December and click submit custom dates. And that's all I'm going to see on my calendar here. And then I can just clear those custom dates and I go back to where I was at. So those are some of the new features that we've added to the calendar grids. I think I missed anything. Okay. And there was just an internal one that is something behind the scenes too that was added to the new features that you guys really won't see. User related new features. Sending an email to a user when the account is locked due to the login failure. So that email will describe, that their account is locked and that they need to note, and it'll say to contact somebody at your district to assist you in unlocking your account. So that's a good indication. So they know it's not a password issue, it's a lockout issue. And so that user can then contact the district. Creating custom email validators to allow non-standard emails. So what that means is if I had an apostrophe in my email, it wasn't recognizing that, and they were getting an error. So we kind of fixed that or improved it, I guess. So the email validator will recognize those type of specific situations like an apostrophe in the email address. And then that information will display properly. We also created a background process, and what was happening is that there was an issue with a bunch of orphaned workflow processes just hanging out there. And so they've created an improvement here to clean those up. Underneath timesheets, we did add a new report in here. So I'm just going to go back to timesheets and show that to you here. Go down to timesheets and click on, let's see. I think I have to go into the actual timesheet manager, which she is not that person. I'm going to go pick on Pam. There we go. So the timesheet manager with that role, they'll be able to see the timesheet overview report. And so when I click on this, it looks very similar to our timesheet export. But what they can do is they can go in and let's say I want to select a specific period. I'm going to pick on 11/16 through 11/30. And I can filter again. These are the filtering, and whatever I filter underneath periods and the employee's positions, filter data is going to show down here in this grid. But what this will do then is it's like it says, it's an overview report. It's a summary report. So when I look at that, let me make these bigger here. It includes those people that were on the grid and just gives me a summary of their start and stop dates for their timesheets and a summary of their regular hours versus their exception versus their overtime versus their comp time. So those are listed in here. The other thing that we added is we added a flexible shift option underneath the shifts. So I'm just going to go in and kind of show you where that's at. And so I'm just going to view this custodian shift. This one isn't selected, but I can go in and mark this as a flexible shift. And when that employee creates a timesheet, they're able to go in and add whatever they want for their start and stop times. And I know we have this one documented. I'm going to go down to timesheets and just kind of show you where that's at. So in here, and I'm going to go down to timesheet manager and go to shifts. I'm gonna go up to the top because I think I even have it. Yes, we have a specific explanation on the flexible shift underneath the timesheet manager. So if when I go down here, then it just talks about that flexible shift, how they can set it up. And then when the user goes in to create their timesheet and selects the position that's associated with that flexible shift, the start and ending times are going to be blank. So they can go in and start entering them. So in this example here, on the second and third, they work 7 to 3, but on the fourth, fifth, they work second shift. It allows them then to put in whatever times that they have, considering that it's a flexible shift period. And then we had some miscellaneous. We have an ability to view the W-2 and pay slips in an app, in a mobile app. And in our November newsletter, I'll go into that here in a little bit, but we have a side blurb on that, a DYK about that, that users can go in. And I've done it myself on my phone. It's pretty neat. You know, I can just go in, find my pay slip and pull it up and easily see it on my phone. So for those that, you know, can't get to a computer right away, it's a nice option for them to be able to view their pay slips and their W-2s. And then we did do some just internal cleanup, orphaned workflow processes and some template storing features. These were all internal. So I'm going to take you into the newsletter now and show you some of this. I'm going to show you the payslip information. And I also want to show you some other stuff that we added in the newsletter. But this basically wraps up what we've done. We had a patch here for a specific district we had to do, but this basically wraps up what we've done for new features for November. So going back to our newsletter, this was the last blurb, I believe. Yes, in here. And so I'm just going to blow up that screenshot a little bit more. Here we go. And so, and this is just screenshots of my phone, really. And I logged into my test instance, and basically I took screenshot of those options, you know, so when they click on that, and so I picked on payslip. And so basically from there, then we have a view option. Before we just had the download. So now we have the view, and it's available on the, you know, not just on the mobile app, but on your regular application as well, your desktop. But when they click on this, then what happens is, I'm going to blow this up a little bit more. I know it's blurry, but it'll take them to this screen then, and they can either use their, you know, their fingers to, you know, to stretch the screen to automatically zoom in, or there are going to be options down here as well where they can choose percentages and stuff, and they'll be able to view their pay slip from their phone. So they just pick that, select that, and then either, you know, use their, you know, their fingers to automatically zoom, or they can use one of these percentage options. They'll be able to easily see their pay slip on their phone or whatever else, tablet or whatever they're using. So while we're in here, this was something that we worked on in November. November, basically, most of it was in regards to ESS. We had a lot of people, you know, I mean, there's so many different roles in ESS, right? And so many different roles that can be assigned to a single user. And so, you know, it's a lot to process. So the standard user may not know, you know, what all the different options they have available to them. Whereas, you know, what does an approver have available to them versus what does the lead manager? So what we did is we went in and added basically a summary of each of these to say, hey, this is what the standard user has access to. These are the menu options. And it does depend on what the district has configured. So obviously, if the district isn't using leave requests in ESS, they're not going to see the leave request menu option. So that's why we noted this up here. And so, yeah, we just went in and don't have it. Yeah, and I'm sorry for the scrolling. I just want to go down and see what all I had. So standard user, approver, leave manager, sub coordinator, and the leave calendar roles. And what we did is we took that to the next level, and underneath the video spotlight, we have demos of each of these. And I know like when we did the user role demo, it's about a 30-minute demo because it explains all the options. The recording, it goes through all the options. So we decided to break that down to those specific areas. So if they want to see just information about leave requests that a standard user has, they can just click on this and it takes them right to that part of the recording where it goes into the leave request information. So we broke that one down, and we also broke down the leave calendar rules because they may have users in the district that have leave calendar by building, and maybe another user that just has the leave calendar for district staff. So we wanted to make sure that those were broken down so that that user can go right to that part of the recording and get the information they need on their role. We didn't break down, obviously, the approver, leave manager, and the sub coordinator. Those aren't as long. The leave manager might be a little bit just because they have a lot of options, but the approver and the sub coordinator aren't as long, maybe 10 minutes. But again, I think this is hopefully going to be helpful for those that say, okay, I just need a quick tutorial for my new leave manager. You guys have anything? They do actually. And so this newsletter will provide that information. And, I would just forward the newsletter and say, look at the video spotlight and select the role that you want to see a recording on that role. So hopefully, and I know we're going to have updates and stuff like that, and tweaks made to these, but we believe we're pretty solid and the options available for these roles. So I think these demos will be out there for a while, but we just wanted to make sure that ITCs were aware that we have recordings out there that you can just give to your districts, and they can view this information and learn a quick tutorial on what the role will be. All right. Also, a couple just other things, housekeeping stuff before we leave you guys today. Like I said, when it comes to ESS, I know that, we have most of 16 out there and updated in the documentation, but 17 just came out today, just about an hour or so ago, and we'll get 16 and 17 updated in the documentation. For our trainings, our remaining trainings here, we don't have that many. We have AR modules where we're going to talk about the accounts receivable module and go through all the options available in there. And then we're going to do mass change. We're going to focus on USPS and mass change definitions, and I believe mass load too. So that'll be on the 20th. Then January 3rd, we'll cover the December recap. Also, I will be sending out an email at the beginning of the calendar year with our new training page. We have pretty much solidified our training schedule for 2025. Yay! And so we will update this page then, archive the 2024 so that you can still access the recordings. And then we'll create a new page for 2025, and then it'll have all the information and links for you guys to register for that. So like I said, I will be sending out an email to let you know when the training page is out there. I know you all can't wait to go out there and start signing up for these. And then also another reminder I'll probably have on that email is in regards to our ITC contact list. I know a lot of new people at the ITCs this year. And so we do have a shared Google Sheet where you guys can go out there and add new staff to that sheet. That way we're all aware of the fiscal support staff working at the ITCs. It helps us too in case we have to go in and make any updates regarding JIRA access and stuff like that. So I'll provide a link to the Google Sheet that we all share, and I'll include that in the email as well. Okay, any questions? All right. Well, I appreciate you guys staying on for as long as you have. We want to wish you guys all a very nice weekend here. And if I don't talk to you before Christmas, I want to wish you guys all a happy holidays. Enjoy your time with your families, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.